Today's journey finds us in Weston, West Virginia, and we will be making a few different stops in our video today. First, we have found a very old cemetery. You can feel the history and see it all around you, and there is actually a famous grave in here that we are going to visit as well. I will also want to apologize a bit if the camera is a bit uneasy. I don't know if it will translate on camera or not, but this is a steep uphill climb. And I couldn't be in a place this old and not get up this hill to see the sights and take you all along with me. This cemetery is known as the Old Hill Arnold Cemetery. The town of Weston established this cemetery in 1820, making it the town's first official cemetery. This was originally a 1-acre plot, but William Arnold donated an adjoining piece of property to enlarge the cemetery. This would become known as the Arnold Cemetery. We are going to find the grave of Alexander Scott Withers, who would gain some notoriety as an author, as well as be a teacher to a young man named Thomas Jackson, who would later become known as Stonewall Jackson. Mr. Withers wrote the book entitled Chronicles of Border Warfare, which he would receive accolades for writing. Also amongst us are local Weston West Virginia notables. There are a few takeaways from this cemetery. It is loaded with local history, and it isn't exactly easy to navigate, but I am so glad that I came here. This area has some other sites that relate closely to Stonewall Jackson. The next part of our visit will take us to the farm in which he grew up, and also another cemetery visit to find the grave of Stonewall Jackson's grandfather. Alexander Scott Withers was a delegate to the First Wheeling Convention, which established the state of West Virginia. His book, Chronicles of Border Warfare, would tell the story of the early settlement of Western Virginia and the conflicts with Native Americans in that region. The book, although acclaimed now, brought Withers no profit. Although he traveled to Missouri with plans to settle there, he ended up back here in Lewis County, West Virginia, where he would spend the remainder of his days. At one time, he was a slave owner, but actually a Unionist during the Civil War. It was said that he fathered a number of children with a slave after his wife had died. As you can tell, he has an extremely complicated history. He died around age 73 and is now buried here on the side of this hill in Weston, West Virginia. Thomas Jackson was born on January 21, 1824 in Virginia. He would later become known as Stonewall Jackson. His father died from typhoid fever when he was young. His mother remarried. It is said that her husband did not like his new stepchildren. His mother, who was actually in poor health, agreed to send Thomas and his sister Laura to their grandmother's to be raised. One of the uncles came to get them, and it is said that Thomas was so reluctant to leave that he hid. Their mother died a year later. All of that brings us to Jackson's Mill, where we are today. While their mother's health continued to fail, they were sent here to the homestead of Cummins Jackson, their half-uncle. The boy who would become known as Stonewall was an asset to the farm, helping by tending sheep and harvesting the crops. He would spend roughly 7 years here. We made a brief stop at this farm to look at the beauty on the way to another cemetery, which is the final resting place of Stonewall Jackson's grandfather. There are a few different cabins and other historical buildings that mark the site. This was just a bonus stop for us and was absolutely beautiful. I honestly did not know the full extent of the history here, which goes to show what is out there once we start exploring. I did know that I definitely wanted to get this farm and historic place filmed before we make it to our next stop. The Jackson's Mill location that we are in was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1972 and is now part of a state-owned museum property. The Jackson Cemetery is just a small ways down the road from Jackson's Mill. It was clear to see the age once we got here, and I love finding locations like this. We are here today to visit the grave of Colonel Edward Jackson, the paternal grandfather of Stonewall Jackson. Colonel Edward Jackson served as the Randolph County, Virginia surveyor and captain and colonel of the militia in 1787. He was involved in different leadership roles, including High Sheriff in 1792. I love exploring areas like this, and the amazing thing is just what you are able to find. If you enjoy cemetery and history videos, please like and subscribe to join me on my journeys. I would also like to thank my latest Patreon supporter, Tarina Bowden. I truly appreciate your support and believing in what I do. Another video of mine will be on the screen soon. I hope that you will watch it. Once again, from Weston, West Virginia and the surrounding areas, I will see you again soon.